This looks so good. Oh my god, I cannot wait to eat. It's been so long since I ate. I just need my fork. Oh, I forgot a fork. Okay, just need to grab that. Let's open the drawer, grab a fork. Okay, now it's time to eat. Let's go back. Okay, finally time to sit down. Let's eat. Finally. Oh, I actually don't have water. Okay, let's go and grab a glass. Put this down right here for now. Thank God for that hyperfixation cleaning, so I actually have glasses. All right, let's just fill that up and get on so I can get back to lunch. Looks so good. Oh, when's the last time that I watered those flowers? You know what? I'm gonna grab it. We'll put it near the sink so that I won't forget. This will be super quick. Then I can just eat my food. Let's put them down really quickly. Hot lava. Then we can go right back. Yay, food time. Oh my god, yes, water. I'm so thirsty, thank God. Okay, I actually got everything done pretty quick, so now I can finally eat. Uh-oh. Where is my fork? Oh my goodness.
Why are you so bitter about late diagnosis? I mean, you still seem to be successful. Imagine for a moment that you drive a crappy 1989 Chevette, stick shift. And every time you get in your car, it is guaranteed that at least two things will go wrong. Sometimes you get off easy and it's just that your window won't go down or the trunk won't close. But sometimes it's a flat tire and a transmission leak. Okay. But after a few years of this, you start carrying a full collection of tools in your car every time you leave. But over the years, you've gotten a reputation for being late and irresponsible. Now, after 30 years, you become an expert. You could rebuild that car from nothing. Does that mean that when your axle breaks in half, you're not going to be late to work? No, you're still going to be late to work. But less of those big things are going to happen, and you may not be as late as you would have been. But as far as you know, everyone drives Chevettes. Because when you arrive late to work and you say, sorry, I had car troubles, people respond with, yeah, everybody has car troubles, but everyone still manages to make it on time. So one day you pull aside your coworker and you say, hey, how come you're never late to work and you never miss any deadlines? And they say, I don't know, I just do. And you say, well, doesn't your car always break down? Well, yeah, we all have car troubles, but then we just get it fixed and move on. Don't you have tools? Yeah, I have tons of tools. Well, maybe your tools just aren't good enough. So you keep shopping around for new tools and you're like, I'm pretty sure I've tried all the tools, and I've tried them a lot. Then one day you come across an article about Teslas. And you go and you test drive a Tesla, and it runs like butter. Not only is it automatic, it's self-driving. And if anything goes wrong, they bring you a new Tesla until yours is fixed. And you find out that all those people who had said that everyone has car problems had been driving Teslas this whole time. You could have had a Tesla for 30 years that you were repairing that broken down Chevette. If someone had just said to you, why do you drive a Chevette? You should drive a Tesla. So yes, I'm fairly functioning. Yes, I'm fairly successful. But look at how much work it took to get here. How much more successful could I have been if I had put in that amount of effort with a Tesla? Here's the hardest part. I was lucky enough to come from a family who became experts at repairing Chevettes. Imagine not having that. And your only coping mechanism was to just go to the repairman every time. And you rack up way more debt than you can handle. Or you just keep trying to fix it because you can't afford a mechanic. And life gets so difficult that you turn to drugs, or you just take your own life. Simply because no one told you that you're driving a Chevette and you could be driving a Tesla. So yeah, I'm bitter because I've lost friends to that. And as long as I'm here on Earth, I'm going to get as many people in Teslas as I can. Okay, I get it.
Finger down or the ADHD edition, which means ADHD and autistic wrapped into one. You are incredibly self-aware, so much so that you have probably been told this by multiple people, including therapists throughout your life. And whilst to some it may seem like it's a gift, to you, it has probably felt more like a curse and has been a reason for rumination, overthinking, and just a lot of self-torment. You're either chronically bored or overstimulated, and there is very little in between. It might be very easy for you to fall between one and the other. You didn't really think that you had special interests, or maybe you didn't resonate with that side of things, but when you really think about it, you do have them. It's just that you're not very vocal about them and you keep them quite private, but you've definitely got that one topic that if you hear someone talking about, you are charged and ready to go and talk about that thing for the next 6 hours. On one side, you want to be spontaneous and have fun and live a life of novelty. On the other side, your brain hates that and it does not want that. It does not want that at all. You want a clean and organized space, but you find it very, very difficult to implement this and be consistent with it. And this causes a lot of internal discomfort because you really don't work well with a lot of clutter, but that one side of you accumulates a lot of clutter. Whilst you appear social and confident on the outside, internally you are struggling and you feel like you've never really naturally known how to be social or how to fit in. You've had to work very hard to watch other people. However, your ADHD symptoms might take over in social situations and make you look more bubbly because you are working hard to overcompensate. When you get back home, the autistic side will ruminate and overthink and feel exhausted about everything that happened. You feel as though you are constantly in a battle with yourself. There are two sides of you fighting against each other, and you've never really understood why. And this is with your emotional regulation, what you want in life, what you don't want in life, what you want to eat, when you want to eat. It seems to control every aspect of your life, and it's been a constant problem for you that's caused a lot of internal discomfort. You need routine to function and have structure in your life. However, the ADHD side hates this and wants novelty and spontaneous activities and to just flow in life. And when you combine these both together, you end up feeling very lost and sometimes directionless. You may have a naturally rebellious and open-minded spirit. However, you also have that part of you that hates breaking rules and absolutely hates the idea of getting into any trouble whatsoever. If you can resonate with this, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have autism or ADHD, but if you experience these consistently and intensely, then it is definitely worth something to look into for your own well-being and to help get you the support that you need.
Time blindness makes you early but also makes you late. Yep. And it's also time blindness that means that people sometimes don't see you for weeks or months. That's correct. Time blindness also makes you sometimes not do tasks because you feel like they'll take way longer than they actually do take. Yeah. And it also makes it hard for you to accurately remember whether you did something yesterday or last week or last month. Yes. Right. And it's also time blindness when you say you only need 5 minutes, but in reality you take like 25. Pretty much. And it's due to the same issue that you sometimes look at the time and are shocked at what the time actually is. Yeah. Time blindness also makes it difficult for you to imagine your future self. Yeah. People with ADHD have time blindness, which makes it difficult for them to accurately perceive how many minutes, hours, or days or weeks have gone by. Also, yeah. And basically, time isn't well defined for you. Yes. Because your body struggles to perceive light, temperature changes, etc. Yep.
If you're one of those people who thinks executive dysfunction only happens for things we don't like school or cleaning, then please consider the fact that I've been meaning to plug my phone in for 20 minutes and I'm now at 2% and still putting it off to write this post. My anime video game list consists of over 100 titles easily, and yet I almost never get around to watching or playing any of them. Executive dysfunction is not just for boring or unenjoyable things, it's for everything, even eating. And not just eating, going to the bathroom. Literally going to the bathroom. We will put that off forever. It's literally just that the dopamine is not there. And people misunderstand dopamine all the time. They're like, oh, it's the pleasure chemical. Ooh, it's the reward system. Bruh, it's literally just the motivation juice. It's the thing that makes us go. It's literally the thing that makes us do the things. And that dopamine can be missing even if it's something that we want to do, that we know that we'll enjoy doing. And yes, this is inconceivable for people that aren't in this situation because it's just so friggin' dang easy for them to go do things that they want to do or that they don't want to do. And describe to me a more specific hell than not even being able to do the things that you want to do because you love to do things that you like to do because it releases dopamine in your brain, but right now it's not releasing dopamine in your brain. It's not working right now. So what the heck is going on? You thought you had the system figured out, but it seems to change every 4 seconds and that you don't even get a software update. Anyway, hope that raised awareness. And guess what? You will enjoy doing the things that you enjoy to do again. I promise. And I'm here for you. And you can watch my other videos for tips and tricks, and I love you guys, and we can do this together. And if you've been on this app too long, and here's your permission to get off of it, or no judgment if you're staying on. I love you guys, and take care of yourselves. Also,
I was diagnosed with ADHD last month at the age of 52. Here's what led to me finally talking to a psychologist. 3 of my 6 children were diagnosed with ADHD, 2 of which in their mid to late 20s. As I've learned from my 3 kids what ADHD looks like in their lives, red flags began popping up as I thought about my own life. And then my daughter said to me, "Mom, you know that usually ADHD is genetic, right? It's either you or dad that has it." So I started keeping a note on my phone of symptoms I saw in myself that could be possibly linked to ADHD. But here's one simple example of what it looked like for me. While making raspberry freezer jam, I peek over into the dining room, see that mess on the table, so I come over to start cleaning it up. Part of the mess on the table includes this book, so I'm gonna walk into my bedroom and put it away where it belongs. I walk into the bedroom, see that the bed's unmade, so I stop to make the bed. And this goes on until finally I walk back out to the kitchen to see, oh yeah, I was making raspberry freezer jam. And even when I was able to focus physically on one task, mentally I was multitasking a million different things, making me super anxious. I have been on Adderall now for about 7 weeks, and the change is massive. And my ability to stay on task and not mentally or physically multitask is huge. So if you're my age, don't be afraid to go talk to a psychologist if you're struggling. It's 2024, and mental health treatment is no longer associated with shame, fear, or weakness. If this is something you want me to talk about more, let me know.
This is the worst part about ADHD. It's not the forgetting shit, it's not overbuying, it's not whatever you want to say it is. It's the paralysis. I'm just sitting here and I have so much to do. And all I'm doing is panicking and I'm overwhelmed. I'm just telling myself, just get up and do it, just get up and do it, just get up and do it. Stop being so lazy, and I just can't get up and do it. And I know I have so much capability. I know I could be doing so much with my life, but I just have no ability to follow through. And I'll stress about a project for days or weeks, and if I had just gotten it done in that 20 minutes that it took, then I would have enjoyed that week and a half. But instead I have just panicked and paralysis. Why can't I just do it? It's like you're just trapped in your own brain, and it's the most frustrating thing in the entire world. And I'm so exhausted. And like, how do you explain that to someone? I'm exhausted from doing nothing. I'm exhausted from doing nothing.
I don't understand how taking a shower can be that difficult to do. So in your brain, what are the steps that you need to do to just take a shower? I don't know, you walk in the bathroom, take your clothes off, take a shower, put your clothes back on. So like 3 steps. When I think of the steps required to take a shower, I need to mentally prepare myself to walk into the bathroom. It's going to be cold, so I need to understand that I'm going to take my clothes off, I'm going to be cold. I then have to go and get in the warm shower. I don't like being wet. But then once I'm in the shower, I like being wet. I've gotten to a comfortable temperature. Then I have to mentally prepare myself to do all the steps and tasks that are in the shower, washing my hair, shaving myself, whatever I have to do. Then I'm comfortable, I'm warm. I don't want to then do the transition of getting out of the shower and getting cold again, having to dry myself, putting my clothes on, all that time in between from drying yourself, putting your clothes on, and being not wet again. That's like 17 steps. Wow. That's why.
The biggest ADHD struggles that nobody really talks about is the constant guilt that you feel. You feel guilty and ashamed if any of your struggles could possibly impact somebody else. So you overcompensate so much to the point of constant burnout and exhaustion. You feel guilty even when you're resting because you feel like there's so many other things that you should be doing instead. You feel guilty when your ADHD struggles keep you from being able to do things that you need to do. You feel guilty when you have emotional dysregulation or when you have a meltdown and somebody else witnesses it. You feel guilty for all the money that you spent on things that you haven't used. You feel guilty about your inconsistency and fluctuating energy levels. You feel guilty when you forget that appointment for your daughter, or when you've forgotten the job title of your best friend, or you forget to message them at all. And nobody really sees these struggles to ADHD. And one of the biggest benefits to getting an ADHD diagnosis is that relief of shame and guilt. And to help you feel less alone and less guilty, I create the content that I do.
5 things that ADHDers hate. And again, I know that most people are going to hate these things, but for ADHDers, it's a whole nother level. Smile and wave, boys. Just smile and wave. Okay, I'll get to it, sorry.
Number 1, too many questions. Point of view.
What are you doing today? Have you booked that thing I told you to book? Are you free next weekend? Did you hit that deadline?
One at a time, please. One at a time. Slow walkers. Dawdlers, I'd say, actually. Dawdlers? I have somewhere to be 24/7, even if it's nowhere, you're walking too slow.
Trot along, trot along.
3, the unknown. We just need to know everything. When I ask you how your day was, I'm not asking you to reply with good or bad. I'm asking you to reply to me with exactly everything that you've done up until meeting me. Why do I need to know that information? I don't know. I just want to know everything. This is a tricky one in relationships, actually, because when you say, oh, what have you been doing today? And they go, oh, not much. And you're like, well, that's a lie, isn't it? Because you've obviously been doing something. And that comes across as a bit weird and a bit toxic, but it's not. I want to know what you're doing. Like, what have you done? What have you been doing in your spare time, you know?
Maybe that is weird. Maybe that is weird.
Being told we're lazy. I'm the least laziest person I know. Fully. Maybe. Yeah. If you lot could crawl up inside our brains, right? And then try and tell us if we're lazy. Because you lot wouldn't cope. You lot would be dizzy.
Oh my god, what's going on here? My brain's moving so much that I can't move my body.
That's literally what it's like, so... Think about next time you call someone lazy, okay? Lastly, being told that we're too much. It's funny because I know I'm too much for myself, okay? I have to learn to live with myself, so you have to learn that too. And if you get to know me, you'll realise that I'm not too much and that I have a great personality. I'm the most caring person you'll ever meet, most protective person you'll ever meet. Don't ever say that an ADHD is too much. We've done our whole lives telling ourselves that. We don't need you to bring up all of our trauma, okay? Okay, bye.
Let's talk about 5 personality traits that I thought made me an awful fucking human being, but I found out were just undiagnosed ADHD. 1, interrupting. I grew up always interrupting and interjecting into conversation. To me, my mind is running a million miles an hour, and as people speak, I just want to join in. I want to finish their sentence. I want to add to it. I'm just so excited. It's such a positive thing. But it wasn't until I was older that I realized that this probably comes off really rude. Number 2, the other end of the spectrum, zoning out. I will be mid-conversation and people can see my eyes just completely glaze over. I have great friends who know me really well and they'll just bring me back into the conversation knowing that my mind has just wandered. For people who don't know me, this just comes off like I don't care. Number 3, emotional dysregulation. Growing up, I used to have massive anger outbursts. I get really emotional, really upset. The highs are so high and the lows are so low. As an adult, I get really overwhelmed extremely quickly and I can't communicate how I feel. 4, not being able to start or finish tasks. I find this extremely overwhelming to just even begin a task. Something as simple as getting in the shower, making food, or cleaning up the pile of clothes on my bed can send me into an absolute mental breakdown. I constantly live with a to-do list of things that haven't been done, and it makes me feel like I'm failing all the time. Number 5, forgetting things. I am so forgetful. My extroverted personality sometimes lets me get away with it, but the deeper the relationship I have with people, the more that they see that I don't remember conversations, I don't remember appointments. People say use your calendar. I will forget to use the calendar. If you're suffering with these things, you're not a bad person. Make sure you're surrounded by an incredible support network that understands you and that won't make you feel like shit for things that you cannot control. You've got a community here of people who understand you. We can do this together.
I'm going to give you 17 questions that I actually ask my patients when I am assessing them for ADHD. Please keep in mind that you cannot diagnose yourself with ADHD just based on these questions. ADHD symptoms can overlap with a lot of other mental health issues and also with just normal human experience. So if this is something that resonates with you, doesn't automatically mean you have ADHD, just means maybe it's worth talking with your doctor or therapist. Here are the 17 questions I ask. Number 1, do you have trouble focusing or find yourself daydreaming often? Number 2, do you often find that you are restless and have trouble sitting still? Number 3, do you find yourself constantly tapping your foot, bouncing your leg, twirling your hair, picking at your cuticles? Number 4, no matter how hard you try, do you find yourself constantly being late, or are you excessively early because you're so afraid of being late? Number 5, do you have a hard time estimating how long it's going to take you to complete a task, even if it's a task that you do fairly often? Number 6, do you find yourself embarrassed by how disorganized or messy your home or office space is? Number 7, do you have a really hard time organizing things at the beginning of a project? So for example, outlining a paper before you start writing. Number 8, do you have difficulty completing one task at a time? Number 9, do you find that it's difficult for you to relax or wind down even if you do have free time? Number 10, do you find you have trouble sleeping, either falling asleep or staying asleep because you can't turn your mind off? Number 11, do you find yourself struggling with overeating, forgetting to eat regularly, compulsively eating the same foods over and over again, or binge eating? When you're taking an exam, do you find that you tend to do pretty well on the more complicated questions, but then when it comes to the straightforward, easier questions, you end up making careless mistakes? Number 13, do you have trouble throwing things away, so you end up keeping a lot of extra stuff you maybe don't need by default? Number 14, do you find that you're frequently losing essential everyday items like your wallet, keys, phone, etc.? Number 15, do you feel that you are especially sensitive to criticism or rejection from other people? Number 16, do you find that you have trouble with things that require moving your body in space? So this may look like being more clumsy than the average person and showing up with bruises that you have no idea how they got there, or even getting into more frequent car accidents than the average person. And finally, number 17, do you find that you often feel overwhelmed in loud and busy environments? So those are some of the most common questions that I ask. There are so many other nuanced questions and topics that come up when we're discussing ADHD during an evaluation. So definitely something to talk with your doctor or therapist about if you're worried, but I hope this helps. Let me know if you have any questions.
ADHD creates a nearsightedness to time so that the person with the disorder cannot organize to the delayed future, but only to the imminent future. And so everything in life becomes a crisis. But the crisis was avoidable, and no one has any patience with this because they see this as a moral failing. You could have chosen to get ready, but you didn't. It is phrased as a form of laziness, this layabout, ne'er-do-well, carefree, careless attitude that you could change if you wanted to, right? But we know it as the executive failure it really is. This disorder precludes you from organizing across time. So you live in the moment, and you cannot organize very large, hierarchically sequenced behavior across time. It means that future-directed behavior is intentional behavior, which means ADD is actually IDD, intention deficit disorder. I don't seem to be able to accomplish most of the things I intended to do. You can call that a short attention span, but I think intention deficit disorder captures it much better. Now, the frontal lobes, the executive system, is where you take what you know and you apply it in your daily life. It is not where you know something, it is where you use what you know. The back part of the brain acquires knowledge. The front part of the brain puts it in play. ADHD has separated these two like a meat cleaver.
So someone with ADHD, typically, no matter how together they may appear, senior, professional, successful, slick, will undoubtedly have struggled in their earlier life to get by, to fit in, to kind of match their potential. And they'd have heard messages, and I've not worked with anyone to date that hasn't had an experience around this where there may be that mismatch. If only you tried harder, you've got great potential, but just try harder. You hear lazy, not trying hard enough. You go through this process of being delivered negative labels, maybe well-intentioned ones, maybe ones that to someone neurotypical wouldn't have such a profound effect. But if you're getting them in multiple scenarios and you're being told by people you're too much, not enough, it's really confusing as an identity piece, but you internalize that. How can that not affect your self-esteem, how you feel and know you are perceived in the world? So that comes down to self-worth, self-esteem. So you carry that through life and you feel, again, clients I work with will often talk about how they experience, whether you call it imposter syndrome or not being good enough. So there's always a sense of trying to prove yourself.
The most exhausting and frustrating part about having ADHD is that there is a mechanism inside you that is constantly in this like start-stop mode. You'll go on these sprints, you'll have these bursts of energy, this burst of creativity, this burst of productivity, and then you just stop. You run out of energy, you run out of inspiration, you run out of motivation, and then you just can't finish. You can't finish the task you started, you can't finish the project you started, you can't reach a goal because you just run out. You run out of whatever it is that normally keeps people going. It makes life feel so difficult all the time because it happens with everything. Like, it's not even just like a task. It's a thought process. It's a feeling. It's a mood. It's trying to get towards a goal, move towards a dream. Like, you just can't get there because while everyone else around you is running at a steady pace towards it and climbing over obstacles, you're doing these sprints and then you just drop and you don't move for an extended period of time, and you never know how long that's going to be. You never know how long you're going to be stuck on pause before you are able to gather up enough energy, enough motivation, inspiration in order to be productive again. So you're always behind everyone else. You just watch everyone else pass you by in everything, in their tasks, in their career, in their goals, in their dreams, in their inner work, in their personal growth. Everybody passes you up because you constantly just stopping randomly. So it's exhausting and frustrating because you feel like you have no control over it. None. You want to keep going. Logically, you would love to, but you just can't. Like, something inside of you just can't keep going. So you just wait around hoping that it comes back to you again. And you do this day in and day out for all of your life. You're in a constant state of this intense, manic productivity and then burnout.
I actually made it on time. I can't believe it. I'm so excited. But I've got my team here. Do not forget, do not forget, do not forget, double check about everything. I know I have everything. Where are my sunglasses? Oh, where are my fucking sunglasses? I can't believe I keep doing this. Oh, they're late. I'm gonna be late. They're on my head. Don't worry. Whoops, guys. You set a reminder for it. Should have set a reminder. Oh, I do this every time. Fuck, it's so cold in here. It's freezing. Hurry up, hurry up. Put the heater on. I need to hurry up and do this. She's got them apple bottom. Did I forget anything else? I think I might have forgotten. Oh, no, it's okay. I've got to choose this song. I wish I had my barbecue shakes. It's a bit bright. Shut that. I'm ready to go. Oh, I'm thirsty. I forgot my drink bottle. Fuck.
How to spot ADHD in women in 25 seconds. They will have a huge amount of internal chatter, a million thoughts happening simultaneously, and this can sometimes cause paralysis, which will stop them from being able to do anything. So they may be lying on the sofa, scrolling social media, and this will look like laziness, but it's not. They're literally unable to do anything else right now. They will have an intense fear of rejection. They will feel constantly exhausted. They will have low self-esteem, daydream, and can have unusual eating habits. They will be more likely to be labelled as moody or too sensitive. They can be kind, creative, and passionate, but also chaotic, scattered, and distracted. They will feel misunderstood and feel like nobody understands them. They'll wish that those people could spend one day inside their head so they can prove how difficult things can be sometimes. They will get diagnosed later in life and suddenly realise that all of their personality flaws were actually undiagnosed ADHD and that their whole life suddenly makes sense. They'll be flooded with an overwhelming feeling of relief when they realise, after all this time, that they're not broken, just different, and that they were always enough.
ADHD contradictions that just make sense. Needs a good schedule to function, but can't follow it most of the time. Has difficulty connecting with others, but craves social interaction. Stresses over not being on time, but has no perception of time and is always late. Constantly overstimulated by senses, but becomes restless and understimulated easily. Has intense lifelong special interests, but hyperfixates on a new absurd hobby every month. Prefers to work in clean spaces, but can't keep any space tidy longer than 10 minutes.
This weekend I found out that people with ADD and ADHD don't miss people.
Oh girl, you're too loud. But hi, I'm Vicky Ashley, your neighborhood therapist in a robe. But yes, this is called object permanence or object constancy issues, to where it's just concept where if it's out of sight, out of mind. So if something is not literally physically in your visual spatial field, you will not think it's real or there. If it's not in front of you, it actually doesn't exist. In your relationships, it can look like it's if you live in a different city than your friends and you're not often reaching out or calling or texting and checking in because of your literal fixation on what's happening in your life and your routine and staying on track and not trying to be overwhelmed. Or on the opposite end, if you are overwhelmed, which we often are as people who struggle with attention, we won't physically be or emotionally be present with you and for you because we're barely emotionally present with ourselves because we're too busy fixated on an issue or trying to solve a problem or reach our next goal. It's really difficult in managing and sustaining some of our adult relationships, especially with friends that require more from you. And especially you'll see this with people who have more detached, avoidant attachment styles where they're not, or they just practice detachment, where they're not people who need to be checked in on or talked to all the time. So you'll find that if you are in friendships with people who need more from you or need to hear from you or need to check in on you or want to have constant or need to feel connected to you, your friendships might be in jeopardy. And it's something that people work on all the time with executive coaches, with therapists. Anyway, it's not that your ADHD friends don't love you. They're just overwhelmed and fixated. And they need to be reminded of that. And that's why it's important to find your tribe that understands you. And also, it's even more important to communicate and learn and become aware of how your ADHD affects you and how it could potentially affect your family, friends, partners, and things like that.
ADHD in women. What does it actually look like? We usually show up on the more inattentive side, and this can look like having no hobbies or losing interest in things very, very quickly. Constant overwhelm and overthinking, which is usually because the hyperactive side is in our brain and it doesn't stop, ever. Can look like changing your image a lot, never really knowing what your sense of self is or your identity, and kind of moving from look to look in a short amount of time. It can show up as anxiety and depression, and that is why a lot of us went misdiagnosed, because we were diagnosed with those instead. However, they usually are a byproduct of ADHD going undiagnosed and not having the right support or treatment. Feeling a need for change a lot, but also not knowing what that change is and just perpetually being in this state of like, what the hell am I doing with my life? Needing your space to be organized and tidy so that your brain can feel organized and tidy, but inevitably it never really is, or it's a lot of work to kind of consistently keep your home organized and tidy. And this brings on a lot of shame for a lot of us. Constantly. The problem isn't that we don't want to organise, it's almost like we just don't know how. We don't even know where to start. Fun. Often feeling overwhelmed with just like the idea of a task. So like even if it's something you truly, truly want to do, just so overwhelmed, burnt out, very easily burnt out. Constantly feeling behind peers but not really expressing it and not really speaking up, so you kind of float along, especially in school, but really under the surface you are struggling a lot and you don't really know why, and you feel like you're just behind everyone and not as good as everyone around you. Having an outward perception of being quite bubbly, happy-go-lucky, the fun one, good sense of humour. However, behind the scenes, inside is a lot of internal anxiety, ruminating, rejection sensitivity, not feeling good enough, and quite a lot of critical thoughts about oneself. Essentially, we are very good at hiding our problems and acting as though everything's okay when it's not. We struggle to maintain connections with people long term. Or if we do have lots of connections, they're very rarely meaningful and they don't really feel anything beyond surface level. other than a select few people, we tend to keep our circle quite small because of that. If you can relate to any of these things, why did I put the microphone so close? If you can relate to any of this, then my content is for you. This is your safe space. We are all raging ADHD here, and you are more than welcome to join and feel less alone, because let's be honest, it can feel a lot. And I just want you to know, you right there, you are not alone, okay? Good. Goodbye.
I had a revelation. I was watching this video about ADHD and why it legit is so hard to function and why it's actually like a full-ass disability, because your brain just like needs the dopamine to do the things and you don't have the dopamine. And it hit me. For so long, I was like, I used to be such a happy person. I used to be able to like get up at 3 a.m. and drive to work and go to work and work all day long, and I worked at a gym and I was so happy all the time. And then now I'm like sad and bleh. I work from home and I don't feel any of those happy chemicals that I used to feel. I wasn't happy. I was stimulated. I was working in a gym all day long with tons of people and very loud music and a trillion things happening all at one time, and it burned me the fuck out, which is why I now work from home. But before I was burnt out, I was so happy. And I used to think that the happiness came from working in that environment, even though I could tell you that I hated working in that environment, but I also kind of loved working in that environment. I didn't love working in that environment. That environment worked for me and stimulated me enough to keep me happy. So now I don't have to work on being happy, I have to work on being stimulated.
Let's talk task initiation for the all or nothing ADHD brain. I get comments saying, oh, I could never do this trick because it's either all or nothing. A lot of ADHD folks experience this feeling. Now, I can only speak from my own experience, but I very literally trick my brain into doing the work. Let me explain. I gave the tip recently that if you're struggling to do the dishes, to just do the cups and then walk away. But here's the reality. Oftentimes, if I do just the cups, it pushes me to do all of it. When I combine the trick of doing just the cups with interest fulfillment, I usually do the entire task. So I pick my favorite show to watch or favorite audiobook or favorite playlist to listen to work on just the cups. My brain thinks, hey, we're just gonna do the cups, it's totally fine. But as I get sucked more and more into the task, I just complete it. Point 1, Haley. Point 0, ADHD. This is a really good tip then for task initiation, and it also teaches our brain that we don't have to do everything all at once all the time. Because guess what? Sometimes I just do the cups. But I felt for a really long time that I was an all or nothing kind of gal. So if you believe you can't do a tip because you're an all or nothing person, trick your brain into thinking you're not. That's all for now. Love you.
The 6 surprising signs that I didn't know, that I had all 6 of them, that could be signs that you too have adult ADHD. The ability to hyper focus in certain settings, but not be able to pay attention at all in other settings. Difficulty controlling your emotions. You're using up so much mental energy trying to pay attention that there's no gas in the tank to be able to tolerate the emotions of being frustrated or tired, impulsive shopping, and overspending. And you get this huge rush for buying something, and then all of a sudden you realize that was stupid and you didn't need it. Time blindness. You're terrible with time management. I'm constantly late. I am the last person to get in the car for our family. As hard as I try to be on time, it feels impossible to me. Many people with ADHD are actually very high functioning. On the outside, you look like a workaholic. You look very successful. Or if you're not working, you're just one of those people that's super duper busy. But here's the thing. Your busyness and your workaholism is scattered all over the place. Adults with ADHD tend to be highly self-critical. You constantly beat yourself up for not being able to do simple things. You're worried that you're disappointing everybody. You're wondering why it looks effortless for everybody else but you. And this is the default mode of what your own inner dialogue sounds like. Ding, 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 ding. Mel Robbins, I got all 6.